if you guys were here last week, you may have seen me do an installation for PDF merger to my properties and units table. And again, I've been using the same lease management application for my office hours to keep things kind of consistent so everyone can follow along. So if you've watched any of the other videos, this should look familiar. As you can see, we have some other office hours up here that we've done. But down here, we have the PDF merger, where just to do a quick recap of last week, we did PDF merger using a configuration. So we essentially said, take the records on this table, which you can find the DBID in the URL, so ending in 22 VR. So we said, take all of these file attachments from this table and merge them together into one file attachment field, into one file, merged into field 72. So we did that last week, and when we ran it, we got a nice completed merge document, which I'll just show you right now. And you get to see all of those, including a little bit of a plug there from us. And that worked well. That was a nice, quick, and easy session. But for some people, that might not necessarily do everything they're looking for. And in many use cases, if you're using PDF merger, you want to be grabbing files from additional tables as well. So what we can do is a little bit of a different setup. And I'm going to show you guys some options, so just bear with me. And if you have questions, please feel free to stop me in my tracks, and I would love to explain further so that we can make sure everyone is on the same page. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to be using something called PDF merger using a query parameter. And for those of you who are not really familiar with queries, it's how Quickbase searches other records from other tables. And you can learn all about it from Quickbase's help site. And we're just going to be utilizing that in one of our parameters today. So I went ahead and I made this field already just to make sure that we had everything prepared going forward. So I'm going to go and just show you what's going on behind the scenes in this field. And we're going to change some stuff here. So I actually pre-wrote this out. The information here is saying your client ID followed by your app ID with an app token, which may not be necessary in your application. So if it was blanked out, that's totally fine. We're going to leave that. We're going to leave that one in there for now. And then we're going to use MSQRY, and that's another parameter that's been used in a couple of other of our add-ons. So it should look familiar if you've used, Exact Forms Plus or Excel Docs with us. And we're going to be plugging in this query. So right now, this is the related records, which I'll show you in a second. So field 94 is equal to record ID. And I know this isn't record ID, but that's what this table is. We got this from the App Exchange. So for those of you watching, even in the future, property/unit number is record ID number for this table. So I just want to make that clear because that can definitely be a confusing thing. My recommendation to all my clients always is don't change record ID number unless you really feel like you must. It just will save you a big headache when Quickbase is going over stuff. It'll save you a headache when you're watching anything from university. They refer to record ID quite often. So we're also following this up by a CList parameter, which if you've used Exact Forms Plus, CList is a column list. And we're essentially going to be grabbing, this is actually the file attachment, and I'll go into that a little bit more in a second. And then we've got some other parameters that I'm going to need to edit right now, such as DBID, merge record ID, merge file attachment, merge file name, merge date, and error fields. So we're going to update all of those to make sure that they match what I have on this table and not some other table. So before I go into changing all these, I just want to show you guys where you can go to get this information. My recommendation is always to go to our master demo. And if you can't find our master demo, you could always go to drewstech.com and you can go by add-on. And you can go into any of these to learn more. You can always then, where did that take me back to the top? There we go. And you can go to live demo. That will take you right to whichever different add-ons demo you want to learn from. That's probably the best way to go about doing it from there. But you can also go into this master demo, which would open up PDF Merger, which I already did. So I'll just open it up again. And now I'm in a record. Across the top here, you have a bunch of tabs with options that we can do. Today, we're going to be going over merge using a query. So there might be a lot of text here, but if you just read into it a little bit, it's actually not too confusing. So you're going to merge file attachments from another table into one file attachment field. So that's what we're trying to do today. So if I were to click this button, it's going to make a merge record for me based off of some related records here. And you see there's actually some sample code you can plug in. So what I actually did is I took that sample code and I plugged it in on my end and made some changes to it. Now, there's a lot of hard-coded values here that you're going to have to change. So we're going to go through changing all of those right now back in my lease management app. So I just wanted to let you guys know that's how you would get to the information here, these parameters. You, of course, can always find the parameters themselves from our help site. And the reason why I'm going into this is we have gotten the question many times in the past, well, where do I get this information? How'd you get there? So a secondary way to do this is you can go from our help site and go to PDF Merger parameters, which will have all of the parameters that I'm going over today. So I just wanted to point that out as well. All right. So again, we're going to be recreating this in lease management, which I did already make. So let's open this up and let's go through a couple of these. So what I'm going to do for my own sake is I'm going to open up this form on another page just so I can see which ones I'm going through and adding. And then I'll keep swiping back and forth so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So for us, and I'm going to start from the top, client ID number is Q2. Everyone's going to have their own unique client ID. I did go over that last week, but I want to point that out again. So, you know, yours might be in the 2000s. Ours is Q2. The app ID is you could do this simple function to get your app ID, or you could hard code it, but I would always recommend doing this. So if you do end up copying your application, it's going to know, okay, this is the new app ID rather than having it hard coded. The next thing is the app token, which is not always required, and I just plugged that in for us. The query, which I will now show you how we got this query, is very important too. So for this one, I want to get all the related child records. So if I open up my table-to-table relationship, and I go to properties and leases, I have my record ID, and then my numeric reference field, my related field. So I know that I want to have anytime the related field is equal to record ID. So if I clicked onto this field, I see this is field number 94. So what I ended up doing was I put 94 is now EX equal, and then record ID, which is this property / unit number. So I did, you know, a single quote, double quote to open up getting record ID with another single quote. That would, of course, be your own. It's not going to be 94 for you, most likely. And this likely will be record ID. And again, this is to get the related records. The next thing we have is the C list, which is the column list. So these are the file attachments fields from the other table that we want to grab. So this is going to my leases table. So why don't I go in and let's open up my leases table. And let's grab any one of these. And what I want to do is I want to grab this inspection report for this use case. So I want to grab 139. So back in here, I have 139 as part of my C list. And then if I wanted to, say I wanted to have an additional field, if I wanted 109 as well, I would just add another dot and 109. But for this particular use case, I don't want to have that one. I know those files aren't filled in all the way. So I'll just delete that out and we'll stick with just 139. DBID is actually pointing the DBID of the table I want to get that file attachment from. So I see that VR, you know, 2VR, that's actually this table right now, 22VR. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to go into my leases table, and in the URL at the top, you'll see DB/. I'm going to take everything up to the question mark. because that's my DB ID. That's my table DB ID. And I'm going to hard code that right in there. Now that's saying, okay, now I'm going to be grabbing from that table. And we have S3 equals no. We can also grab files and send files to Amazon S3. We're not going to go over that today. Any of the cloud-based services, I actually don't think we've done office hours on those yet, Keith, right?
No, I don't think so.
Right. So we'll have to go over those in the future. Sending files and grabbing files from Amazon S3 is really powerful. So we'll definitely be touching upon that soon. But for now, we just have S3 equals N. If you don't have that in there, it's not going to break anything. So no big deal. The next parameter is MRG DBID. So this is where the file attachment's going to land. Now, I put another function in here for $DBID because I want it to be back in this properties/units table. If I wanted to hard code that, like I did for this DBID, I could with my current table. But I'm just going to keep this as is because I want it on the current table where this field lives. Now, the merge record ID, I want it to actually come back to the record that I execute this from. So what I have is MRG RID equals record ID. So whatever record I'm executing this from, send it back to this table. And then these are the fields I have to have updated on my properties/units table. So if I go to properties and units, and I scroll down to the fields that I already have that exist, I have merge date, merge file attachment, and merge errors. So I can take this and say, okay, merge date. So DT, that was field 73. 73. Merge errors, I'm assuming it's going to be 75. And merge file attachment, I'm going to assume is 74. No, 72. And the file attachment is 72. Now, merge FN, you could write really whatever you want. This is the file name. One note, and this is a key note here. Merge FN cannot have a space in it. So we're going to keep this as merged for actually, we'll just call this merge properties underscore leases. And you notice how I use the underscore for the space instead. That's totally okay. There just cannot be a true space in there. Speaking of also, you do not need any extra spaces in this configuration. You should just keep it with one space in between all these values. So for right now, I'm pretty happy with that. I will not be taking a survey. And you can go through and take a look at it from here too, and see if you can find any errors. Most people aren't going to be able to, spot an error with their eyes, but something we spotted just before is I was missing single quotes. And I'll zoom in a little bit so you guys can see this better. It's always good to double check what you have to make sure that it's going to function as expected. So what I anticipate happening next is we're going to be merging all 4 of these records into one. Now, the only other thing that I have to do is make the email notification. And this is commonly missed. So I'm going to stop right here, take a second. When you make the email notification, you're actually sending these parameters to our servers, to our processors, to then actually kick back a reply. So I need to update the original notification I have to be using this field now instead of this PDF merger parameters field. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up my settings, go to email, notifications, subscriptions, reminders, and I have this PDF merger email notification from last week. So I'm just going to edit this one. So just to go over from the top, open permission always, notification name, whatever you feel. I'm going to do PDF merger with QRY now. I always include myself on the emails so I know that they're actually going out. And then you also want to include whatever add-ons email address we're using. And these can always be found on our help site. But for this example, it's pdfmerger@pdfmerger.quickbasetools.com. Moving on, we go to the notification when. This is really your filter criteria. This is when should this go out. So when a property/unit, when your table is modified and any of the following fields change, we made a checkbox field in our last office hours last week. And that checkbox field gets updated by a button. So we have when this checkbox field is equal to checked. In the bottom, you have your email contents where the single record version is subject, PDF merger for office hours. And then you actually see right here, this is really truly the only thing we need to change. And that's PDF merger parameters. So I'm just going to take that out. I'm going to type in PDF merge using query parameters. To that, and do one space so that type equals PDF merger is included. It's very important. Manal, if Manal's here, I believe you can have type equals PDF merger in your parameters as long as it's the very last parameter. I believe that is the case.
Yes.
But I always like to put it in the email notification just so that I know for sure it's my last parameter. So that's what we're going to do there. We're going to hit save. Yeah, yes, we don't have a custom body for multi-record version. That's okay. We're not doing multiple records. And now I have my checkbox, which is actually checked already. So I'm going to hit this again, which should uncheck that checkbox. And that email notification should not go out based off this. I'm just going to take a pause. I do see something in the chat.
I got it,
Will
Matt.
share this recording after the session. Yes, we will. We share every single one on YouTube after. So good question. So you'll always be able to come back and check this out. So as expected, nothing went out because the checkbox was not checked. So I'll hit that run again. And that check the checkbox. Now we should see these parameters be sent to our end and this field get updated. Just so you guys know, the run PDF merger, what's going on behind the scenes there. This is just a formula where we're making a variable at the top to say, check this checkbox. So we make variable checkbox, and then we're updating field 77 based off these if statement. So if you need this formula, we could always provide this to you as well. Let's see if I came back. Any change, error occurred while retrieving files from local path, yada, yada, yada. Well, what I think may have happened is let's see if each one of these has a file, which you guessed it, first one, 139, there's no file. So let's see if I make this. And I do believe I checked the rest of them prior to this meeting. But I believe this one does not either. So I'll generate this one as well. You cannot merge files that don't exist. That's for sure. And we now see the inspection was also created for this one. And I believe this one has it. What? Scrooge McDuck is not gonna be happy with me after this one. That's okay though. So there we go. And let's double check. Nothing. Not a single one. Well, now we know that they're all there. Of course, cannot merge any documents that are not there. So let's just double check again. This is field 139. And what I asked my query to do was get all the file attachments in field 139. Obviously, I cannot merge anything that's not there. So that's a note to the wise. If you want to merge stuff, make sure there's a file there. But it's nice to see an error come up here. If you do get an error message like that, that's one quick thing to do is make sure there's actually files that you want to have attached. But now that I made all of those file attachments, let's hit check and let's run it again and see what happens. Now, for those of you who are looking, I can't stop looking at it, but created on August 4th, 2004. Not to date myself, but I think I was 7. So,
Very funny.
yeah. So good news is the merge error is cleared out and we have our property and leases PDF. So, you know, as I wanted to show, mistakes do happen. And you can see this build too. Not many things are changing here because, you know, these are all the same files, but you can see the build too changing. These are 4 different files from the 4 related records. And of course you can get pretty
Hey,
around.
Matthew, can I say one? The error was because you didn't have any files in any of the records, correct? So had you missed one, it would have been okay.
Right, I believe that
Okay.
is the case. I had 0 records to pull in.
Right. Okay.
Right. So that was on me. I don't know what file records I was looking at before, but I definitely thought I had checked. But things like that do happen. Obviously, those are human mistakes that happen every single day. And, you know, that's just one way to quickly check yourself. If you do get an error message, you can kind of check those low-hanging fruit of things that might have gone wrong on your end. Obviously, they still go wrong on our end sometimes. So it's good to be able to see how to fix those if you do come across those problems yourself. All right. So now that we have this merged document from the related records, I'm assuming no. Does anyone have any questions? All right. Oh, there we go. Thank you. So if we only have a few files, but 1 or 2 of them do not have a file attachment, will it give us an error or will it just merge the ones that are populated? So I believe that's what Todd was just referring to. It should still do it, but one way to test that, and, you know, there's no test like doing it live. I could delete this one and we could run it again. So there's no inspection report here. And if I were to go back into my property/unit, which I'm just going to hit back a bunch of times. So I'm back in my property unit and I deleted it for the Ford Motor Company. So let's see, there should only be 3 that run now. So I'm just going to uncheck this checkbox because of my filter criteria. And I'm going to check it again. So let's try it live. So realistically, we should not get any error here. It should just bring back 3 files instead of 4. Let's just give it a second. Sometimes it needs a minute to think. Okay, so another one did get created. I just wanted to show you guys that too. I opened up the clock to see the revision history. I don't really know if there's a better way to do it without maybe putting a timestamp in your file name. But if you're going to generate it for the same record, you may see that nothing changed in the merge document field if you don't delete it or remove it or change the name. So for this example, it did work. You could just see that the revision here. So let's open this one up and take a look. And yes, you could see 3 files. So good question, Amber. Good point, Todd. Definitely good to bring that up. It will work if there is any documents. That's on me, but it's good to show. That. Okay. All right. Yep, no problem. Thank you for asking the question. So based off of that, you know, there's another use case that you could actually bring into this as well. And that's using both the configuration, which we did last week, and the PDF merger queries. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to make another file attachment field. I'm going to call this one the final merge. It's a file attachment field. You know what? Let me make another date field. No merge date. We'll do date time for that. And we'll add these 2 together. Okay. So we have 79 and 80. So what I'm going to show you guys now, and this is a trick that I know James is on the call who does this often. What we're going to end up doing is we're going to merge all the related files that we just got with another file on here, because you actually can't do that when you're merging from one table. So we're actually going to run 2 different parameters kind of at the same time. So I'm going to edit this configurations field. Now, this is what we did last week. So if you're confused about this one at all, definitely revisit last week's video. But just to kind of give you the high level summary, this configuration is pointing to exact records where we should be getting the information from. So this is saying, and here's kind of the workflow. It's DBID : record ID dash, and then the file attachment field. So instead of doing that for just one table, which is what we did last week, we used the query to get it from another table. Now we kind of want to add those two together. So we're actually going to do the same thing, essentially. We're going to say on this record, take fields, and we'll do 64. And then we'll take one out. We don't need all of them. We'll take one out and put that bar back in. And these are all separated by a bar. I'm sorry if I didn't mention that. See this bar right here? That's when you hold shift and right under the backspace. So you want just one bar to separate each part of the configuration. And again, it's this current DBID, this record, and then file attachment 64, this DBID, this record, file attachment 71. So instead of 71, I'm actually going to do file attachment 72. And here's why. This is my merged file from all of my leases. So we're going to take 72, and let me add a field after this one. Let's do final merge date and final merge document. And I believe this is 79. So now we're going to go back here, and we're going to have the final place. And I mentioned this in the last video, but the very last part of the configuration is pointing to where the file attachment should go. So we're going to take 64, and then we're going to take the merged document from before from the query, which lives in 72, and we're going to put it in 79 now. And we're going to rename this final merged file. The date field we're going to update as well to 80, and we'll keep the errors at 75 for now. So let's save. And now there's one more thing I have to do. And because I changed before the email notification, I have to actually create another. So what I'm going to do is, to save myself a little time, I'm going to copy this using that little double paper button to copy. I'm going to rename this one. We'll do final PDF merger. The email address is going to stay the same. We're still emailing it to PDF merger. What we're going to do is we're going to take EFP date, I believe, uncheck checkbox. We're going to do EFP date is not equal to blank. And then the very last thing is, just because I copied it, we're going to take this parameters out, and we're going to throw the old ones back in, which the old ones we just edited. And just in case there's a special character, we'll do that. So now I'm saying, okay, grab, fire this off if EFP date is not equal to blank. So just to show the process again, you would still end up running PDF merger to get all of your related files. So we're going to run. And I should have changed the names so you could see it change in real time. But we're going to run and merge all the records from our related leases, except for this blue one, which moved out. Maybe that works out well for us. So we're going to get those three again. And if you see 1131, we got our file back. So now we're going to merge that together with this exact forms plus document and that one. So I'm going to hit generate EFP. And why I did this one, EFP date, if you remember in that email notification, is not equal to blank. So essentially this date field just got updated. It's 215. Oh, where'd it go? 215, 1131, which should have kicked off my next email notification. And if I hit refresh again, as planned, we have my final merge date and my final merge document, which took my EFP document as well as the three related records. And again, this is just, bogus data. This is just to kind of show you how to set up a workflow like this. And the reason why you would want to have a use case like this is you have many file attachments on related records. You want all those back up to the master, but there may be additional files on your master table that you want to include in your final merge document. You can scoop that all up together and put it into one final PDF, which can then be emailed out, of course, and you can do many other things with it. But here's your final document. One note, this is still only 1.2 megabytes, so not too big, but some of these files, if they include many images, many documents being merged together, they might start getting very, very large. Sometime soon, we are going to go through and show you how to store these in the cloud to save yourself on Quickbase file attachment space. Also to have a, kind of a shared cloud location for you and your team to view these, and they're not kind of stuck in Quickbase. So I think that's basically everything I have for you guys right now. I want to take another pause and see if there's any questions, comments, concerns from the crowd.
One thing I wanted to point out is that final merge,
Right.
Matt could have did that in one button click. He didn't have to go
Right.
click the generate exact fonts plus document, because he could have fired the exact fonts plus batch processor to run once the merge of those related documents were created. So when he clicked the purple run PDF merger, when that finishes, it updates the merge date. So he could have set up another email notification that would have said, when merge date is modified, fire the exact fonts plus batch processor, which really simulates the button click that Matt did above, where he clicked the generate EFP document. So
Right.
you could have done it in one button. Matt wanted to show you in two buttons, because just in case you wanted to review that merge document, you could before you actually created the final document. But that's one way to kind of save button clicks if you want.
Right. Yep, absolutely. So Amber has another question. Can you save these to a repository table as well? My answer to that is yes. So what you can do is the actual merge DB ID. I chose to have it on this table, but if you wanted to hard code another table that you wanted this to go to, you absolutely could. So what you could do is, if I were to, end up messing things up trying to show you, but you can put the hard-coded DB ID, kind of similar to here. So if I had another table in this app, for example, if I wanted it to go to the fresh table, if that was my repository table, I could pick that DB ID and place that here, which would be the merge DB ID. And then you do have to identify a record that you would like it to go to. So for this one, I'm identifying this record ID. Keith, you may know this. What would be the best way to potentially either add a repository record or identify a record without hard coding it? That might be a hard question on the spot.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna have to phone a friend on this one. Is Manal still here?
She told me she's done answering our questions.
Is she?
Now, I think if you keep the record ID blank, then we will add a new record. But I also myself have to look otherwise how we pass in the record ID to relate to the master. So there are two ways we can add the repository record. One way is simply just add the records without relating them to the master table. And the other thing is that we can relate them to the master table. And that's how our package builder works, if you know Matthew. So yes. So I might have to get back to you with the details. Honestly, I don't remember exactly how it is done from top of my head.
Well, why not do it live, right?
Matthew is in mood today.
So I'll hard code that DB ID such to that fresh table. I'm going to blank this out and see if it adds a record, like when all said. And then the file attachment field was field 35. And merge properties leases, that sounds good. Merge date and merge error. Let me see. Merge error 38, merge date 36. 38 and 36. For those of you who may not know, if you double slash part of your formula out, it will comment that out. The reason why I did that is I didn't want to lose the progress I had. So we just kind of said, hopefully that works out. So now let's take a look and see what happens. Okay, so I'm just going to check off and check back on. And let's see. No guarantees. But that should take it to my, essentially should actually add. Oh, would you look at that? Okay. So it did add a record to this test table. And here's my merge properties from leases. So you guys nailed it. If you take the record ID out, so let me just go back to here so you guys can see what I'm speaking about. And I'll just do spacer 2 so it's separated. If you were to take the merge record ID out, so you can see here merge record ID has as record ID. If you have that as blank, and you point your merge DB to whatever your repository table is, that will work. And again, here's that fresh table. I only had one record in there. Now I see 2. And I see here we have my merge property from leases, which we could open back up and just see those 3 documents again. So good question, Amber. Perfect. Yeah, we love perfect, and we love doing things live.
You do.
So does anyone else have any questions? I thought that was actually a very good question. So thank you. That was great to show. Don, I see you're pulling down the headset.
Yeah. What's the update on maximum size? Got a client who used to use the PDF merger for pulling together all the commission statements generated for the month. Problem is the pack well exceeds 75 megabytes now.
Right.
And it's failing out. You know, we need something. They need something in the range of, I'm guessing it's only gotten worse, 100, 125 megabyte PDF or something like that. I mean, we may be pushing the limits of PDF technology. But the goal, of course, is you grab them all, and by making a single record like that, you have an archive of these documents for the month in a single spot. So if anybody wants to argue anything, you go back to that one massive document, and on that day, that was the truth.
So Keith, my first thought is always whenever it's above 75 MB is send it to the cloud. That's always my first thought. I know Quickbase's native file attachment storage space limit is 75 MB. So we actually can't put it into Quickbase even if we wanted to. And Don, I know you know that.
Yeah, we were pushing it when it was smaller to the S3.
Right. So I mean, I think that would be my best suggestion, Keith. You definitely.
There'll never be an answer on the Quickbase side for file attachment fields, as far as I know. So it's always going to be that limit. So the way around it is to save it in Amazon S3. And I think probably when you were working on this, I don't know if we were able to save to S3. I'm pretty sure that was something recent that we did within the last month or two.
Dropbox is definitely new, Keith.
But you can certainly save it to Amazon S3, and you'll get around that 75 megabyte limit on your final merged file.
Right.
As I recall, it was the Juice server that was quitting because we were going to the S3. But I'll go back and revisit it. And drop you a note if I'm wrong.
It shouldn't. Sometimes we get timeouts if files are too big, but usually with that, we just got to adjust some parameters on the server side. But it shouldn't be a problem to save it to S3.
We might have hit the limit of total number of files of merge files. I think we set up for each client. So
Yeah,
that could be the case.
Yeah, and then like Manal said, so, we do so that it doesn't get unwieldy. We do put a limit to the number of files that you can merge together, but we can adjust that on a case-by-case basis. So, but normally we would have put out a message and it not crashed. We would have told you that you exceeded the limit of files to merge together. But we can always revisit that one again, Don, too, to see if we could run that use case with you and see if it works.
I will get back to you on it for sure.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Please do. Good question again. And, like all things, it's always good to know where limitations lie. I don't think we mentioned that in these past videos. Quickbase does have a 75 MB limit for those of you watching in the future. That may be something that you're running into depending on how many images are in your files, how many files in general you're putting together. It might be quite large. But I think with that said, I'm not sure if anyone else has any questions, but I don't see any in the chat. We have about 17 minutes left. I think this is a good time to wrap up. We appreciate you guys coming. Next week, we have a special treat for you guys. We have another office hours interview. Really recommend coming to that. It's going to be a really, really good one. A long-time Quickbase customer and a long-time Juice customer is going to be talking. So super exciting. But thank you guys for coming this week, and we hope to see you again.